The hall was bright and beautiful. Golden ribbons hung from the ceiling, swaying gently in the air-conditioned breeze. Soft music played in the background while balloons floated in the corners like cheerful clouds. It was a baby shower, and Cirilla stood near the center, clapping quietly and smiling. Her friend, Delise, was celebrating her second baby. Yes, a second child. Cirilla had planned every single detail, every flower arrangement, every color choice, every small touch. Everyone in town knew she was the best event planner around. But as Delise opened one gift after another, thanking each guest warmly, Cirilla's smile began to fade. She glanced at the glittering balloons, the towering cake, the tiny baby clothes hanging as decorations. A small ache pressed against her heart. When will it be my turn? She thought. That question sat heavily in her mind even as she laughed at a guest's joke. When she finally got home that evening, she dropped her handbag on the table and sank into the couch, her back straight, her eyes fixed on nothing. One of the housemaids came out from the kitchen carrying a tray of steaming food. But when she saw Cirilla sitting so still, she quietly turned and went back inside. She had worked for Cirilla long enough to know when her madam didn't want company. After a few minutes, Cirilla rose slowly and walked down the hallway to a small room. She opened the door and stepped into a nursery. Soft yellow curtains swayed by the window. Painted cartoon animals smiled from the walls. Shelves were stacked with stuffed animals, and a tiny white crib stood in the corner. Fresh flowers sat in a vase, and in another corner, a brand new baby bath had remained untouched for years. Cirilla walked over and picked up a small baby top from the shelf. She held it against her chest and closed her eyes, smiling faintly as tears pooled. For 6 years she had been waiting. 6 long years she had walked into this room daily, decorating, praying, dreaming. But her womb had remained silent. That night, she lay beside her husband, Kevin, in their king-sized bed. When she rose to go to the bathroom, he stirred. "Babe, you okay?" he asked in a sleepy voice. "I'm fine," she murmured. "Just need the restroom." Moments later, a sharp scream tore from the bathroom. "Kevin!" He rushed in to find her sitting on the floor, staring at her hands. They were covered in blood. "Another miscarriage." "No, no, no," Cirilla cried, her voice breaking. "I can't do this again. I'm tired. Just let me die. Please let me end it." Kevin knelt, wrapping his arms around her. "No, love, please. Don't say that. You'll be okay. We'll be okay," he whispered, though doubt shadowed his own eyes. For the next few days, Cirilla stayed on bed rest. The house was unusually quiet. Even the maids walked slowly and avoided unnecessary talk. She stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering if her time would ever come. But when she finally returned to work, she hid her pain beneath a dark blue dress and sharp heels. Bandages still wrapped her wrist from the hospital drip, but she ignored them. She had events to plan, clients to please. In her office, she pressed the intercom. "Patra, come in now," she ordered. Minutes later, the door opened, but it wasn't Patra, her secretary. It was a junior staff member named Loon. "Where's Patra?" Cirilla asked, frowning. Good morning, Ma. I didn't ask for greetings. Where is she?" Loon stammered. "Ma, Patra's daughter is sick. The doctor asked her to come immediately." Cirilla said nothing. She simply reached for the file in Loon's hands. "Tell her to see me the moment she returns," she said coldly. That afternoon, Patra entered the office, her face pale and tired. "Good afternoon, Ma," she said softly. Cirilla didn't look up from her computer. "Where were you?" "I'm sorry, Ma. It was an emergency. My daughter had a high fever and—" "Do you not have a husband? A mother? A neighbor?" Cirilla cut in. "If we were abroad, would they let you leave work just like that?" Patra shook her head. "This is a company, not a playground. You left your duty post. You know the policy." The next day, salaries were paid. When Patra checked her alert, she saw that a large portion had been deducted. She didn't need to ask why. Everyone in the office knew Cirilla punished mistakes through pay cuts. Whether the mistake was big or small, your salary felt it. Patra locked her phone and sat back in her chair, her eyes red but her mouth silent. A few weeks later, one quiet evening, a couple from their church, Mr. and Mrs. Okoye, came to visit Kevin. They sat in the living room, explaining their problem. Their daughter had just gained admission into the university, but they didn't have enough to pay her school fees. "Please, sir, anything you can do to help us," Mr. Okoye pleaded. Kivin listened carefully and promised to assist. Sarila was in the bedroom when she overheard them. She didn't come out. She didn't say a word. The next morning, she made a phone call to their bank manager. "Good morning, Ma," the manager greeted. "Listen carefully," Sarila said. "No matter what my husband says, do not release any money from our joint account. I don't care what instructions he gives." The manager hesitated. "But Ma, he's already. I just told you what I want. Block all transfers from that account. My husband is not Father Christmas." The manager sighed. "Okay, Ma, I hear you." That weekend, the Okoyes stood at the bus park, their daughter's small suitcase by their side. The school bus driver was ready to leave, but the money hadn't arrived. They called Kivin. "Sir, we have not received anything," Mr. Okoye said, almost in tears. "What? I gave the orders 2 days ago," Kivin exclaimed. The man sighed. "Thank you, sir. Maybe we should go home. The bus is leaving." No. Wait there. I'll fix this," Kivin said quickly. He transferred the money from his personal account. The couple thanked him, got on the bus, and took their daughter to school. That evening, Kivin confronted his wife. "Why did you block the transfer, Sarila?" She didn't flinch. "Because I don't understand why you're always feeding the whole world. That girl is rude, and she doesn't even greet me. And you want to pay her school fees." Kivin frowned. "You shouldn't talk like that. Maybe she greeted and you didn't hear." Sarila's eyes narrowed. "Oh, so I'm deaf now." Kivin's voice stayed calm. "You need to calm down. They needed help, that's all." She waved her hand dismissively. "Please, if you have nothing else to say, leave me alone." He picked up his car keys and left the room quietly. Later that week, Sarila's focus shifted back to work. She had been waiting for a phone call about a huge event contract that could put her company on the international map. When her phone finally rang, she snatched it up. The voice on the line was polite but cold. "We're sorry, Ma. The contract has been awarded to Bliss Event Company." For a moment, Sarila froze. Bliss. That one name made her blood boil. She had worked harder than anyone, trained harder, delivered better. She deserved that job. Standing by the window, she stared at the street below, then turned sharply and called her assistant. "Get me Bola." Bola was a vendor liaison with strong industry connections. That evening, over glasses of red wine, Sarila laid out her plan. They would quietly convince some of Bliss's vendors to cause small disruptions. "We'll pay double. No one has to quit working for them. Just delay things, mix up orders. Nothing serious," she said with a sly smile. Several vendors agreed. At the same time, Sarila used another weapon, an anonymous blog she secretly owned. It was famous for honest industry news and had millions of readers. Under fake headlines, she planted seeds of doubt. Can Bliss handle a job this big? Past mistakes may haunt them again. Rumors began to spread. When Bliss's big event finally happened, everything went wrong. Chairs were missing, the food arrived late, the sound system failed. The client was embarrassed, and the news spread fast. "Major Lagos event ends in disaster. Bliss under fire," the headlines read. Sarila sipped wine on her couch, her legs crossed, watching the coverage with a small, satisfied smile. Days later, the phone rang again. "Is this Sarila?" a man asked. "Yes," she replied. "We're from the firm that hired Bliss. We made a mistake. Please, can you handle our upcoming celebration? We'll double the payment." Her lips curved. "Send me the details." In her mind, it wasn't wickedness, it was business. Smart moves. Strategy. The new event became one of the grandest Sarila had ever planned. Every table gleamed with gold-rimmed cutlery. The lights cast a warm glow over the hall, and celebrities mingled with politicians and business tycoons. Standing near the entrance in a fitted black gown, Sarila's eyes swept over every detail like a hawk. Her face was calm, but her mind was sharp. This event had to be flawless. Then she saw a problem. A waiter, a young woman, was talking to a guest at the drinks table. The guest's expression was tight with irritation. The waiter looked confused. Cirilla walked over quickly. "Good evening, sir," she said to the guest with a polite smile. "I deeply apologize. I'll handle it." The man gave a curt nod and left. Cirilla turned to the waiter. "Follow me," she said firmly. In a small back room, Cirilla shut the door behind them. "Who trained you?" she asked coldly. The girl stammered. "Ma, it was a mix-up. I thought he wanted." Before she could finish, Cirilla slapped her sharply. The girl's hand flew to her cheek, her eyes wide. "Do you know who you were talking to? That man's influence could destroy your career before it begins," Cirilla hissed. The girl's lips trembled as she fought tears. Cirilla stepped closer. "Clean your face. Fix your clothes. Go back out there and serve. And if you ever mention this to anyone, not only will you lose this job, but you will never work in this industry again." The girl nodded silently, wiped her eyes and left. 2 days later, Cirilla held a Zoom meeting with her team, coordinators, planners, logistics staff, and her secretary Patra. "First of all," Cirilla began, "I am not happy." Everyone sat still. "That waiter you brought? Disaster. Complete disaster," she argued with a politician. Patra tried to speak. "Ma, Cirilla raised her hand. "Don't talk. Just listen." Then came the list. "Patra, remember when you hired that DJ who couldn't play proper music? Or when you booked a late flight, and I missed a client meeting in Abuja? Or when you were seen eating puff puff at an event before the guests were served?" Patra stared at her notepad. She was used to the public scolding. No one else spoke. Later that week, Cirilla arrived early at the office. She met the cleaner mopping the hallway. Gripping the door handle, she felt it sticky. She pulled a wipe from her bag, cleaned it, and showed it to the cleaner. "This is dirty. What have you been doing?" "Ma, I've been cleaning," the cleaner replied nervously. "Shut up," Cirilla snapped. "You're not used to luxury. Soft life is not for everyone. Poverty suits some people," she said coldly. "If you can't clean properly, there are plenty of others who want this job." The cleaner nodded quickly, her hands trembling as she continued mopping. That weekend, Cirilla went shopping at the mall. She was passing the children's section when a little girl suddenly ran up and hugged her legs. "Mommy, Mommy," the child cried. For a moment, Cirilla froze. Slowly, she bent down and hugged the girl back. Then a woman came running. "Oh, madam, I'm so sorry. She's my daughter." Cirilla smiled softly. "It's okay. She's just a child." As she sat in her car afterward, tears filled her eyes. When she got home, she was quiet. Kevin noticed. "What's wrong, love?" She wiped her eyes. "A little girl called me mommy today. I don't know why, but it shook me. And when her mother came to take her, I felt so bad because I wished she was my child. I wished I could keep her." Her voice broke. Kevin sat beside her and held her hand. "Cirilla, don't think like that." She shook her head. "Why is God punishing us? We've given so much in church, sponsored the pastor's projects, even paid school fees for children that aren't ours. What else does he want from us? We've prayed, fasted, sown seeds, yet nothing." Her voice trembled with frustration. Kevin squeezed her hand gently. "No, don't say God is punishing us. In his time it will happen. Remember Abraham and Sarah? They waited too." Cirilla's voice rose. "I'm not Sarah. I don't want to wait until I'm old. Let him answer now." Her husband said nothing more, only hugged her tighter. Inside, Cirilla's hope felt like a candle flickering, and she and Kevin stayed in a hotel before their flight home. Around 2 a.m., while he slept, Cirilla slipped from the bed, knelt beside it, and began to cry. "God, why don't you give me a child? What have I done to deserve this silence? Your word says your plans for me are good, but this feels like evil." Her sobs filled the room. "I've prayed. I've fasted. I've done everything. Why are you so silent? Do you hate me? People call me madam, call me mommy, and you say nothing." She buried her face in her hands. The world outside seemed to vanish, and she felt herself standing in a pure white space, bright and endless. In the distance, a figure appeared, clothed in light, face serene. A voice calm yet powerful filled the space. "You are seen. You are heard. Your tears are not wasted." Cirilla felt warmth wrap around her like a blanket. "But when?" she whispered. "When will it be my turn?" The voice replied, "In the appointed time. Trust me." And just like that, the vision faded. She found herself still kneeling beside the hotel bed, her cheeks wet. She crawled under the covers and lay quietly, unsure if what she experienced was real. But something in her heart felt slightly lighter. Months passed. Work kept her busy, but the ache never fully left. Sometimes she would catch herself lingering in the nursery, running her hands along the crib. Sometimes at church, she would glance at the children's section and quickly look away. And sometimes she simply closed her eyes at night and imagined a small voice calling her mommy. One quiet morning, Cirilla stood in her bedroom, sunlight pouring in through the curtains. She placed her hand over her stomach, still flat, still silent, and whispered, "I'm still here, Lord. I'm still waiting." Her voice held no anger this time, only a quiet, fragile hope. And though she didn't know when, she believed, maybe for the first time in years, that her turn would come.
Every story carries a lesson. If this one moved you, tap subscribe so you never miss the next twist in the journey.